Oh yeah, it's time to get your streaming devices ready. Load them up and press play. It's time to Netflix and chill with Tom and Reuben.
Welcome to Netflix and Chill. This is Reuben.
I'm Tom.
And we just take a little break here, and we were getting some beers and talking about Twisted Sister.
Talking about the Twisted Sister documentary.
Yeah,
on Netflix.
and the Foo Fighters documentary,
the
and
Foo
Pearl
Fighters
Jam documentary.
and all of those. Yeah.
You know, with the pop guard, like, so Tom
I don't use the pop guard.
doesn't use the pop guard. He brings his own microphone because he's special like that,
Right.
with its own little foam dealie.
My mommy says I'm special.
And so, like, the pop guard, he just has it like vertical from the arm of the mic stand, and it reminds me of like the scooter on Quadrophenia.
Oh yeah.
Where he's got like 90,000 mirrors
all over the side of the thing.
That's what I'm looking at.
That's kind of
right
what
now.
it looks like. Yeah.
But it's also at a right angle. So like Tom's like framed in here, kind of like Madonna's Vogue. It's really
Yeah. I don't like the pop guard because I can't see you, and not that I really want to look at you, but it's important to see you when I'm having a conversation. So I use the foam cover over the microphone.
That's funny. When we were talking about it earlier in your previous experiences with pop guards, it reminded me of like when Jane's Addiction first got back together, and they got back together with Flea.
Yes.
And they were talking about Justin Avery, who was their original bass player.
Yeah.
And he's like, and Perry Farrell was like, I used to look over to my left and I would see, and now I look over there and it's Flea, and I'm like, wow, that's really great. Some shit like that. Sorry, you were not privy to that conversation.
That was a pop goulash diversion or
whatever.
distraction or whatever. I saw Jane's Addiction twice.
I've seen Jane's Addiction.
Unreal.
I've seen him 3 times.
What
I think.
what a great performer he is. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw them on that tour with Flea at the Aragon Ballroom, and the Smashing Pumpkins opened up for them.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, as a special secret surprise guest.
Also, amazing performers, and he gets terrible credit. He gets such shit for being such a douchebag.
But he is a douchebag.
Actually, though, did you hear him on Joe Rogan?
Yeah,
he's actually
a fucking weirdo.
He's
dude.
weird, and he's not a bad guy.
No,
I think he gets a bad rap.
Yeah, but that's because he opens his mouth and talks.
I know.
Dude, honestly, like I saw the set lists recently because they just did their reunion tour through Chicago. Dude, those set lists were ridiculous.
Really?
A friend of mine from work was at the show. Dude, they did Rhinoceros. They were doing shit from Gish to
dude, Gish is such a good record.
Dude,
man.
Gish is fucking incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about the Smashing Pumpkins. People, catch up.
He's in Gish, Butch Vig, right?
Yeah, Gish and Siamese Dream were Butch Vig.
Both Butch Vig.
And then they went to the U2 Flood and Brian Eno after that. But they did everything up to, I want to say, Machina.
Okay.
So those first 5, but from what I hear too, they didn't really do a whole lot off the Adore album, which is fine by me because fuck that album.
Yeah, I kind of lost. I lost interest in the Pumpkins after
Melancholy.
Was it Melancholy? Yeah.
Dude, check out the Machines of God album.
I have.
Dude.
It's not bad. It's good. But
Raindrops and Sun Showers is probably my favorite song. Dude, that song is incredible.
I'll have to give it another listen and see. I've always been a big fan of Gish. Gish to me is so. It's such a great record.
It's a great psychedelic rock album.
Yeah, it really is.
Fantastic record.
But anyway.
But I digress.
Yeah, we're digressing into pop goulash territory. Although this is pop goulash.
Yeah, it is pop goulash.
Pop goulash presents
Netflix and chill, bitches. Get sexy up in this motherfucker. So. Anyway,
all right.
So this week, I have tasked Tom with the endurance race that is Kevin Smith's Tusk.
Wow.
Which is a fucked up movie based on a podcast.
It was. The endurance race is a good explanation of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the whole.
If you have not seen Tusk, you
Stop right
gotta
now.
go watch it.
Just to
because,
say
look,
that you've seen
for
it.
no other, forget spoilers or whatever. This is such a weird fucking movie that you're gonna think we're not even making sense when we talk about this. Unless you've seen the movie. So go watch the movie, come back.
Which is it's surprising because this movie I will always remember when it was released to theaters.
Okay.
Which it was released and was quickly like swept under the carpet, and
I can't imagine why.
under like that same weekend, it was opened wide and closed quickly.
I cannot for the life of me I cannot imagine that this would have seen. And I didn't know anything about this movie.
Really?
I knew a little bit about it from talking to you in the past because I know you're a huge Kevin Smith guy, and I do like a lot of his stuff. I've seen Red State, and I've seen obviously all of the Jay and Silent Bob stuff, like we talked about last episode. But I had not really heard much about this movie. After watching it now for the first time, I can't even fathom how the general population of this country would accept this movie in any way, shape, or form. This is the strangest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
Bizarre. And it all came from a podcast.
Yeah, I read that. I read a lot about this after I watched it because I had to.
You're like, what the fuck?
Because I'm like, what the fuck did I watch?
I almost pointed you to the podcast that it came from.
I should have listened to it, and I did not.
But the problem now is all of their old podcasts, anything older than 6 months,
behind
is
a paywall.
Spotify Premium.
Ah, shit. Fuck that. I would have never listened to it.
Yeah.
I don't pay for jack shit.
Yeah. Or
that's not true. I pay for some things.
I don't know if it's on Spotify Premium or if it's on, what's the podcast? Stitcher Premium.
Stitcher? Okay.
I can't remember, but yeah. But I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. I'm sure
you
it's up
probably
on
find
YouTube.
It somewhere if you look hard enough, yeah.
But I want to say it's like Smodcast 237 or 243 or something like that. But it's, but it basically, they found a wanted ad.
Dude.
Where it says, hey, you know what, come and you can live with me rent-free. Everything's going to be provided, but for 2 hours a day, you have to dress up as a walrus. And
holy fuck.
Yeah. And it was on Gumtree.com was the website. Yeah. Come to find out, it was bullshit. Like the whole thing was bullshit. Like the ad that was placed out there.
So
was
the
just
ad was bullshit. It was
a funny.
It was a troll.
Ad.
It was
some dude that put it out.
Okay,
and that guy got a producer credit on the movie.
Oh, good.
As well he should.
Good for him. I mean, hey, listen, whatever I'm going to say about this movie is no reflection on my opinions on Kevin Smith.
Right.
I really, really like Kevin Smith's stuff. I have heard a number of interviews with him. I've listened to a number of Smodcasts. I'm not a regular listener of his stuff, but I've listened to a number of, like I said, interviews with him. I love his interview. His most recent interview with Joe Rogan was great. It's such a...
Dude, he got Rogan to cry.
It's such a cool insight into a guy who you think is like... You kind of always have this feeling of Kevin Smith like... He's this regular guy who fell into being a celebrity.
Yeah.
And this latest Joe Rogan episode with him, this latest Joe Rogan interview, if you haven't listened to it, really confirms that. Is like, no, he really is just this regular dude who, like, he's this regular pot-smoking fucking college kid who fell into being this fucking huge celebrity.
Well, it's crazy because he didn't even start smoking truly smoking pot.
I mean, I was just using that as
no, I know. Yeah. But like, he made Zack and Mary make a porno. Which is a funny fucking movie.
Really, really funny.
But it failed miserably at the box office.
Yeah.
And at that point, like, he worked with Seth Rogen, and he was just like, fuck it, let's get high. And he's been a major pot smoker. He quit smoking cigarettes and started smoking weed.
Oh, okay. After that movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's been a total blazer ever since.
Yeah.
And his work is shown recently for it.
Well, and I wasn't suggesting that he's always been that way. I was just more suggesting like he has that I'm just a pot smoking college kid type of attitude about him.
Right.
You know, like he's just a goofball. Mm-hmm. And he really is. And this movie though, fuck.
Oh damn,
dude.
So basically, the whole premise
of
the
movie.
What
did you make me watch?
Oh god, I love this movie so much. But basically, like, the entire movie is premised on this Wallace kid, who is played by Justin Long. and his buddy Teddy, who is played by
Sixth
I
Sense.
See Dead People.
I see dead people.
Oh, what's his name?
Yeah. I don't fucking know.
Oh, god damn it!
Hold on, I got.
We've been
I think I
drinking
have
beers.
the IMDb up.
Do you?
I think so.
But we've been drinking beers.
He is played by Haley
Joel Osment. What's his name? Is it Teddy?
Teddy
Teddy.
Kraft.
So basically, he and Teddy have this podcast, and they call it the Nazi Party. But it's not N-A-T-Z-I. It's N-O-T.
N-A-Z-I.
Or N-A-Z-I, whatever.
Right.
Whatever, fucking Nazis.
I
It's
understand.
N-O-T-S-E-E.
You've been drinking, I get it.
Yeah. So basically, like...
Not C.
Not C. So basically, like... Justin Long goes out on adventures and comes back and tells Teddy about it because Teddy doesn't go anywhere.
Teddy doesn't. He refuses to fly or something,
he's
or
like-
whatever. There's some kind of there's some story there about why he won't go. and
So
I didn't-
basically, like, the crazy thing, and I think the thing that like nobody gets about this movie is there's so many in jokes to all of the Kevin Smith podcasts
okay,
that are going out there because like
maybe that's why.
maybe Walt Flanagan, Comic Book Men's Walt Flanagan, who was also like 15 characters in Clerks, he won't fly anywhere. If he's going to go anywhere, it's by car. He will not fly. So I'm guessing that like that aspect is based on Flanagan. And so he won't fly anywhere to go anything. And apparently like doing this podcast had changed Wallace's personality. Like apparently, because you talk his girlfriend, which I don't know if they ever name her.
Yeah,
but she's played by Genesis Rodriguez.
Genesis Rodriguez.
And you look at like Justin Long, and then you look at Genesis Rodriguez.
God, she? I had never seen her before.
She was on a lot of telenovelas. She was Mexican television. She's
holy
gorgeous.
God in heaven, is she smoking?
She's
hot.
absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Whoa.
Yeah. And there's this whole monologue where she's talking to
Allie is her name.
So she's talking to Wallace and about it like, oh, you know, I miss the old Wallace. He was so sensitive and nice and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And Wallace is like, yeah, well, I have a, top performing podcast. I made over
I make
$100,000
a
a year.
year or whatever.
So
it is,
go
or a
fuck
month or
yourself. I'm
whatever
going
it
to
is.
be a
Well,
dick.
apparently, you get the impression that he has built. He's built this
podcast empire.
podcast He's built a podcast empire where he has this enormous following now through this podcast
And makes all of his money doing such.
This Nazi podcast or whatever
Right.
it is, and yeah. Again, not
C.
Nazi, not C.
No, we are not Nazis, no.
No.
So, and then he sees,
I just hold on. I have to digress for a second. Do you remember? I just had this conversation with my daughter this past week because
I don't remember conversations you had
No.
with your daughter.
No. She was doing some German accent or something in the car, making some joke. Do you remember from? I think it was the 80s or it was the 90s or whatever it was, and I don't remember what the product was that they were selling. But do you remember the commercials where they had the women, the Eastern Bloc women, come out, and they all had like these gray burlap, like neck to ankle gray burlap sack type things on, and it was supposed to be like a beauty pageant, and the guy was there announcing going, "Evening vad," and the girl would walk out in the gray burlap, and the swim vad, and she'd walk out carrying a beach ball with the burlap. Fuck.
Was it?
I'm
was
trying
it
to
Saturday
remember.
Night Live?
I know it was an actual commercial for some. It was like one of these, like the whole ad campaign was like "We're different,"
Really?
kind of thing, or I think
Okay.
or whatever. I'm trying to remember.
It was
what
an
the
Apple
fucking-
commercial.
It may have been. If you're listening and you remember what this product was,
Please reach out to us.
Please tell me because I cannot remember what this product was. Fuck. But anyway, all right.
So basically,
So he's built this podcast empire.
and they
Go
find
on.
this video where like it's a take on the Jedi Kid.
Dude. Yeah.
Like if anybody remembers it's one of
I
the very
actually-
first viral videos that went out there.
This is such an insignificant part of the movie. I actually forgot
Yeah.
about this.
Well, it's the reason he got to
It's
Canada.
the reason he goes to Canada.
So like they do this whole like they find this kid that does this whole Jedi thing
In
he
his
ends up-
garage.
in his garage and
with a samurai sword.
and he instead of a lightsaber. So basically, if you remember one of those very first viral videos that went out there, it was this like chubby like pudgy fluffy kid in his garage like doing this whole like lightsaber thing. Well, basically, Kevin Smith was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do it with a samurai sword," and the kid cuts his own leg off.
Kid cuts his leg off in this video. Right, he's got this. It's a viral video that they're watching on the podcast, and the kid cuts his leg off.
Right.
Right.
So the whole point is Wallace is gonna go up to Canada and interview this kid. And as he's walking up the driveway, they're having a funeral for the kid because he committed suicide.
And the kid's wheelchair is sitting there,
right there,
like with the black flowers and the picture of the kid on it. And he's like, "Oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me!" Yeah.
So next thing you know, he ends up at a bar.
Okay, hold on, because at this point, I have no idea what this movie's about.
Right.
I literally, I have no clue. And I'm watching this going, what the fuck is, like, this is, because it comes out of absolutely nowhere that he walks up to this funeral.
Yeah.
You're really thinking, like, okay, he's going to go, he's going to talk to this kid.
Make
and he's
fun of him.
Like, going to make fun of him and ruin this kid's life or something or whatever.
He's going to do a Daily Show type interview with him and make him look stupid.
But it is one of these scenes that it is very Kevin Smith-esque in the fact that it just slaps you in the side of the face like, no, I got you. Boom. You're like, what the fuck? It really, this is, at this point, I'm still very much enjoying what I'm watching. I will just say that.
So then he goes to this bar and he's calling back on a payphone.
Yeah.
To the States, and he's talking to Teddy, and like this ad catches his eye.
Yeah, it's one of the ads. It's an ad like you used to find like in Guitar Center with the
pull-off
with
tabs.
the pull-off tabs. Somebody actually cut like the 2-inch tabs at the bottoms and you can pull off the phone number.
At this point, like it's it's basically the story that I told earlier. You can come live with me rent free, but it doesn't mention the walrus.
Doesn't mention the walrus. He says I have lots of stories to tell.
And he's like, fuck it, I'm up here, might as well talk to this guy.
Right.
So he calls him and makes arrangements, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. And who's the guy? It's, he's not even there yet, but go ahead.
So he ends up at this, like, convenience store, which, that whole convenience store scene, do you know, behind the counter is his daughter, Kevin Smith's daughter,
yeah.
And Johnny Depp's daughter.
I learned that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they did their scene, and, like, he gets directions on how to get to this place, and of course,
this is where the whole movie begins to spiral downhill for me.
It's crazy
because this scene in the convenience store is. This is where the movie kind of turns. I don't know, like I can't even. I'm having a hard time putting words around this, and I really thought when we were going to talk about this, I thought, okay, I don't know what I'm going to say here because like I don't really know what I watched.
It goes to the absurd.
It goes so far into satire and absurdity that you just like you're watching this going, what is this now? Am I watching slapstick at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because up until this point, you think you're watching a movie that is a Kevin Smith-esque style horror movie.
It's not even a horror movie at this point. You just realize that it's.
I knew it was going to be a horror movie. Who's that?
You.
Oh, sorry. That's my phone.
Hopefully nobody heard that.
No, they all heard it. At this point, I knew it was a horror movie.
Right.
Right? And I knew it was going to be a horror movie, but I thought it was going to be a Kevin Smith-esque horror movie, very similar to Red State, where it's like you get this, you're getting an interesting backstory and some sort of like
great dialogue.
Good dialogue. Yeah, which is what Red State was, and it was a great movie. But at this point, when he's in the convenience store, it turns to like satire.
Well, yeah.
You're just like, what the fuck is going on? Is this a comedy now? Because the two girls behind the counter, who we know are Kevin Smith and Johnny Depp's daughter, who Johnny Depp appears later in the movie.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Who, both of the girls are named Colleen. They're the Colleens.
Do they both have Colleen name tags on in the movie or something? Okay. Well, they're Canadian. Their Canadian accents are so ridiculously satirical.
It's supposed to be.
You're right. I get it, and I got that's where it was, but I didn't know that was the movie I was watching.
Right.
So I was like, I got this whole feeling of like, what is going on here? Because they're like, it got very strange at this point.
And it gets stranger.
And yeah, I didn't think it could, but
it
did.
So then basically, like, he finds his way to. Oh God, what was the guy's name?
Oh, I have it up.
What's
Hold
Michael
on.
Parks' character's name?
Hold on, I have it up. But I can't put my phone near the microphone because then this happens.
Yeah.
Right. Howard. Howard Howe.
Howard Howe. Yeah.
Yeah, every character in this movie is named very weird too, right?
Well,
you have
like-
Howard Howe, you have Wallace, which is clearly
Wallace.
a walrus thing. Okay, anyway. So
Well, Howard Howe. Oh God, there was something else. Like, there's some hockey connection or something to that.
Gordie Howe.
Yeah.
Gordie Howe is maybe the greatest hockey player other than Wayne Gretzky, and some would argue he's
More so than Stan Mikita.
either are better than Stan Mikita, and I'm a Hawks fan.
Well, rest in peace,
But
Stan
let's be
Mikita.
honest, Gordie Howe has a thing named after him. There is slang named after Gordie Howe in hockey. It's called the Gordie Howe hat trick.
Really?
A goal, an assist, and a fight in the same game. It's called the Gordie Howe hat trick.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day, kids.
There you go. There's your hockey trivia for the day. Anyway, so go on.
They get to Mr. Howe. He gets to Mr. Howe's place, and it's out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
He's in Manitoba.
Manitoba.
Which, if you've ever been to Manitoba,
There's nothing in Manitoba.
There's Winnipeg, and which is really kind of nothing, and then there's really, really nothing. But if you go to, like, I've been to Manitoba fishing, and there's nothing.
Oh, it's beautiful up there, though.
It's gorgeous, but there's nothing there. I mean,
Right.
that I thought was well done because, like, Howard's
Howard Howe.
house's house, his
house is gorgeous.
It's in the middle, and there's
yeah.
nothing there, and that's kind of what Manitoba's like.
Yeah.
There's really
So he gets to the house.
It's the Great White North, eh?
Yeah. And he starts talking, like, he sits down and starts talking to, Wallace starts talking to Howard.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about that when we...
You'll tell me about this later.
Yeah. So he starts talking to Howard about what he does and what all of this is, and Howard, like, basically Kevin Smith came up with this idea through a podcast, which we spoke about earlier.
Right.
And then he is such a big Michael Parks fan, and Michael Parks is the actor who plays Howard Howe.
Yes.
Now, he also played the preacher in
Red State.
But he was also the cop in the best 10 minutes of what was the Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino? Dust Till Dawn.
What?
Dust Till Dawn.
Dust Till Dawn.
He was the cop
you're
at
right.
the beginning of Dust Till
You're
Dawn.
right. Okay.
Best 10
Okay.
minutes of the film, sir. And
Dust Till Dawn's pretty damn good.
yeah, but
Dust Till Dawn with George Clooney.
yes.
In the Winnebago
Yes.
and what's her name? Crazy.
Salma Hayek?
No.
She's in it as well, though.
She's in it too, but who's the daughter? Who plays George Clooney's daughter? She's
Juliette Lewis.
crazy Juliette Lewis.
Yeah.
She's legitimately nuts.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But no, at the very beginning, after George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino blow the whole convenience store away, he's the cop.
Oh, okay.
So that's where Kevin Smith got his introduction to Michael Parks.
Okay.
And Michael Parks was
That's
also
a pretty good introduction.
He was also in the first Kill Bill. He was one of the investigators after Beatrice gets shot.
Okay.
So he just wanted to let him monologue.
Well, this is he gets so Wallace gets to the place and
he's just a total disrespectful dick.
He's a
cock for the whole
douchebag.
thing.
What a fucking asshole.
Totally.
So, but Howard has this dinner in this I don't want to call it an elegant.
Well, it's not even a dinner. They sit down and have tea.
Well, they sit down and they have tea, but don't they sit down and I thought they had dinner too,
I don't think
or
they
whatever.
had dinner. I think it was just. Would you
or
like?
they
He
just
asked
sit
him
down
if he
and
would
have
like some tea.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So they sit down and they have tea and they're talking, and Howard is talking about.
He tells his tale about going
different adventures where he got lost on an island.
But he met he was friends with Old Man in the Sea.
Ernest Hemingway.
He
calls him Ernie.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And he smuggled booze for Ernest Hemingway when they were in the Navy.
I mean, he's got cool stories, right?
And he ends up on an island, like shipwrecked off its
Right.
like just
Right. But through this whole time, Wallace's character, and
This
this
is being a fucking
he's
dick through the
just
whole
being
thing.
an asshole.
Yeah.
Like he's picking picking up shit off the shelf and like making fucking blowjob gestures
Yeah.
and shit, and just being a total
douche.
dick.
Yeah.
And you just get the feeling like this guy's such a
He's
fucking
a fucking
douche. Yeah. Yeah.
So he tells a story about how he got shipwrecked and he was on this like island and his only companion was a walrus.
A walrus.
Who
He named Mr. Tusk.
Mr. Tusk. And he was the greatest companion he ever had. And they were best friends and blah, 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 blah. And next thing you know, Wallace passes out.
Wallace starts to get dizzy and he kind of stands up. And through the whole thing, you know the tea is drugged.
Yeah.
You just know. If you know you're watching a horror movie,
You know that the tea is drugged.
you know the tea is drugged, and you know that Wallace is going to eventually pass out.
You're right.
Which he does, and that's no surprise.
Yeah.
But then he wakes up in a wheelchair with no leg.
Right. But before that, after he's drugged, they cut to
Oh, the girlfriend.
the girlfriend, Allie.
The girlfriend.
And she's
Yeah.
doing this like straight, just the shot is just her face.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
she's
yeah.
talking, and a single tear runs down her face. Like, and apparently, from what Kevin Smith said during the production of this, she had made mention. She's like, "Yeah, I could totally cry on command." She's like, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Well, doing these telenovelas on Spanish television, like you get an earpiece, they tell you what to say as you're saying it because the scripts come like bam, 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 bam."
With the okay.
So basically, you have to learn how to say what they're telling you to say as they're saying it. So she's like, "Try it," and like. Kevin Smith says something, and she like just says it immediately after he says it. Like,
She was the best thing about this movie.
she's incredible. Genesis Rodriguez.
She
She's
was
amazing.
Absolutely amazing in this
Yeah.
movie.
And
so good.
And she was able to cry in command. So like between takes, between days, Kevin went off and wrote that whole monologue that she does.
Okay.
And then you come to find out that she's fucking Teddy.
Right. Is that the point where you find out, or it's when one of the flashbacks
I think it's one of the flashbacks
that
maybe.
you find out that she's screwing
Teddy.
Wallace's friend Teddy, who's
his
the
co-host.
right? Because Wallace is a dick.
Yeah, and he's the emotional carry of the movie.
And normally, I got to be honest, I was watching this. Normally, I would feel at this point like I give a fuck about any of these characters because he's a dick. She's fucking around on him. His best friend is fucking around with his girlfriend on him, right? But at this point, you kind of feel sympathy for
her.
Absolutely. For sure. Allie, right, is her name?
Yeah.
You kind of feel sympathy for Allie because he
was one
Wallace
person, now
is-
he's another.
Well, and you can't put words around how it's hard for me to put words around how uncomfortable I was with how much of a douchebag he was
Yeah.
during this conversation while he was drinking the tea.
Yeah.
He's such an asshole.
He's rude. He's a total American.
I
He's
mean,
an American in another country.
I mean,
Like
look,
the stereotypical another American in a foreign country.
I guess I don't even want to. I hate doing that where we say like, oh, this is who Americans are or whatever.
No.
in a foreign country. But
Stereotypical.
You're right. Right. This is he is.
He's loudmouth. He's brash. He's obnoxious.
Everything you would think the American stereotype is.
He is times 10.
Multiplied, right, times 10. He just was a dick. Just an asshole. And I think that's why when you find out she's cheating on him with Teddy,
You're okay with it.
I didn't feel too bad about it.
No.
I'm like, I kind of get it. I mean, he's
Prick.
a douchebag.
Right. So then he wakes. Then they cut back to him, and he's in a wheelchair, and he's groggy. He's waking up, and then Howard starts telling this crazy story about how he got bit by a brown recluse.
Yes. Yeah, Howard has this whole story fabricated, and you kind of know that it's fabricated from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because
like the way that he threads the story together is just like, wait, what?
a part of me, a very, very small part of me thought, is this true? Is this really what's happening? Like he got bit by a brown recluse and now he lost his leg? But basically, Wallace wakes up in this wheelchair with no leg, and the story is that he passed out because he was bit by a brown recluse, and Howard found the brown recluse, found the spider up his pant leg, but the local doctor, because they're so far in the middle of nowhere, the local doctor couldn't.
You might as well have been Dr. Vinny Boombots at this point.
Right. And he had to just take his leg off because it was like,
it's fucked at this point.
You had the brown recluse venom in you, and you're fucked. So
wow.
cut your leg off.
Crazy enough, the entire time, Howard is like polishing a tusk.
Yes. Yeah. Which doesn't make sense. I didn't know anything that was coming, so it doesn't make sense until.
So he's polishing a tusk whilst talking to him.
Fuck, this is so weird.
Oh, dude, it's a bizarre fucking movie. I love the fact that Kevin made it.
At this point, I'm still, I'm okay with the movie, and I've gotten past the goofy Canadian, Bob and Doug McKenzie at the convenience store. I've gotten, I guess it would be Bobette and Dougette McKenzie at the convenience store. I've gotten past them at this point, and I feel like, okay, I'm watching a really weird fucking horror movie.
Right.
Okay, I'm good.
So
and I said I wasn't going to say fucking too much.
Oh, I don't care if you say fuck.
No,
whatever.
but I say it a lot.
Don't we all? Dude, have you listened to me talk?
It's like
over the course of like the near 10 years that we've known each other, have you not noticed that like I am just a foul-mouthed bastard?
I know, all of us are. All of you, it's like the fucking whole group is fucking...
yeah. It is what it is.
One of these days I got to stop swearing.
No, you don't have
I got to stop drinking too.
Yeah, Jesus doesn't care either way. But so basically,
I think it's the last thing he cares about is how much I use the word fuck.
Right. Anyway, so then like next thing you know, like he's screaming, he's like trying to get out, and he can't, and shit just escalates.
Well, he's strapped to the chair.
He's strapped into the chair
because he has no leg.
Yeah, he could. It's not like he could fucking hop out of there. He's like, I can't feel my leg. That's because
it's gone, motherfucker.
Right. And he's just got this weird accent about him.
I will say this. At this point in the movie, and there's a lot to go through still.
Sure.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
This is going to be a long episode,
and
folks.
for an hour and a half movie.
This is going to be a long episode.
I think this is the short, next to Clerks, I think this is the next shortest
movie he's done?
Yeah.
It could be. Yeah, I
believe it is.
I don't know what the timings are. It didn't feel long when I was watching it. It felt like a typical movie, but
yeah.
I will say this: at this point in the movie, I'm really fucking weirded out,
right?
Creeped out, and I will say the whole thing with Wallace waking up without the leg, and like with him passing out and everything, done so well.
Yeah,
like I really was in that place of being Wallace.
Yeah,
like at that point, I really was feeling like Wallace would have felt if I had woken up in this strange cabin, this guy I just met last night with no leg.
Yeah.
Like, you really kind of got that.
But you really
feeling.
don't know how much time has passed either.
You don't.
It's disorienting.
It is very disorienting, and maybe that's why it was so good, but it's so well done to this point. Because like I said, I really felt like I was in that place with Wallace, waking up with, and I kind of was like going through it in my head. Was like, oh my God, what would happen? How would I feel if I woke up with no leg?
Yeah,
like somebody had fucking cut off my leg. Holy fuck! Like it's just you really. You feel for him at this point.
Yeah.
Even though despite he's a total douchebag, you do feel for him at this point, and you're in there with him. I don't know if I can describe it really well, but for me, when I was watching it, I really felt like I was in that spot with Wallace.
Yeah.
Like feeling that whole like disorientation of like, whoa, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's what it was. Kevin Smith did such a good job of making this so disorienting.
Yeah.
That when he woke up with no leg, you really felt like, oh my God.
What the fuck?
I'm there with him. I'm like totally disoriented with him. Like I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Now I'm a Smodcast listener.
Okay.
So I listened to the episode that this was based upon.
Okay.
So I heard him kind of plot out how the movie was going to go. So I went into it, which most people who listen to Smodcast went into this movie knowing what was up. you know. So it wasn't as disorienting to me because I was keyed into what was happening. Now I've seen this movie like 5-6 times.
Okay, I watched it twice.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you went back.
I did. I went back and I watched it again because I felt like I felt like I needed to because I needed to wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So at this point, like he's freaking, like Wallace is freaking out, and like he gets some cockamamie answer as to why he can't have his cell phone back to contact the people who, you know, in the States that might be worried about where the fuck he's at because he's been gone for who knows how long. Who knows? He could be gone for like 5 days. It could have been a night and a half.
It felt at this point like it was maybe a day or two at most. It didn't feel like he was gone for weeks, especially because I don't think like they weren't even really looking for him because you were getting flashbacks still, and they weren't like concerned that he wasn't.
Because they did that weird flashback of like where like she like Allie and Wallace were together.
Yeah,
that's where she was like, why are you such an asshole now? And that's where he was like, well, I make $100,000 a year on advertisements alone. Blah, 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 blah.
Right. And that's where you get the whole idea that, this guy was a totally different dude when they started dating.
The money came in.
And now that the money's coming in, he's turned into a dick.
He's basically become Man-Cow.
Right. Yeah, that's a good, yeah. Although Man-Cow's kind of always been a dick.
Yeah. True. Anyway, fuck you, Man-Cow. Whatever. So then like, oh God, where does it go from here?
Well, so there's periodic back and forth at this point of
because he's coming in and out of consciousness.
He's coming in and out of consciousness, and you're getting more of the flashback type stuff and more of the it's not even a flashback as much as it's what's going on with Allie and the other guy, Teddy, while they're obviously taking advantage. And this is where you find out that
it was right after that point where he hears his phone ring.
Right.
And he tries to grab it, and whoever it was that was calling him hung up. So he tries to call back, and he leaves a long voicemail message like, this guy's fucking crazy.
But before that, this is where you find out that Teddy and Allie are using these trips as opportunities for them to get together and kind of stay together, and like Teddy's they're basically living together while he's gone on these trips. So you get the feeling of whether Teddy's afraid to fly or not, I don't know, but the fact is that they're using this.
From the way that I took it, it started off with he was afraid to fly, and it just kind of blossomed. I
got the same feeling, but then the phone rings, and he figures out, he finds his phone, and he ends up making a call, and he calls and leaves a voicemail for her
and for Teddy
and for him.
And it's basically
and then this big long voicemail of, oh my God, this guy's crazy. He cut off my fucking leg.
I don't want to die in Canada.
I don't want to die in Canada, which is hysterical. Nobody wants to die in Canada.
Yeah, Canadians don't want to.
Sorry,
die in Canada.
Canadian listeners, but
and I love you, Canada.
We love you. I actually really enjoyed every time I've ever been in Canada.
It's
had
the best
time.
Totally.
We got so hammered in Windsor one time.
Really?
Fucking, oh my God, we were just ripped. Okay, can I digress for a minute?
Can we pause so I can take a piss?
Yeah, let's take a piss and have a drink, and then I gotta get another beer. Yeah,
you got fucked up in Windsor.
We got fucked up in Windsor. Yeah, and then I was with a bunch of guys. This was in college. Was with a bunch of guys, and we went to some bar and met some girls at this bar, and one of the girls had this was in 89.
Okay.
90, and one of these girls had
So you were in college?
Yeah, it was like a 88 or 80. It was like a couple-year-old Camaro. It was like fucking brand new.
Okay.
And she's like, "Oh yeah, we'll drive you back to your fraternity house." And we were up there seeing the fraternity up there with one of the chapters at like University of Windsor.
Sure.
And she's like, "I don't know where it's at though. Why don't you drive?" Holy fuck, dude! I was like 80 miles an hour through the streets of Windsor in this fucking Camaro, drunk off my ass.
Was it a
Kids,
bitchin' Camaro?
Don't try this at home, but it was fucking. Oh, dude,
nice.
It was crazy. It was probably the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life.
Well, I mean, I've done pretty dumb things.
This was up there, but
surprisingly, that's only a 6.2.
Zombie Dust.
Yeah,
I'm drinking a Zombie Dust right now. Zombie Dust Pale Ale from Three Floyds, and it's good. It's very good.
Yeah,
I like it.
the guy who did the label for it, his name is Tim Seeley. He does a lot of artwork for DC Comics.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
All right. So, we're at the point
Where Wallace calls.
Wallace is calling. He's leaving these long. He leaves 2 long messages, one for Allie, one for Teddy, and then he keeps going in and out of consciousness.
At that point, they contact the police authority.
The Canadian police, and they listen to the messages and they realize, okay, this is not him fucking around. This is
like,
actually
this is
something's
fucked up.
wrong. So they're in the car. This is pretty funny. They're in the car driving to the airport to go, and they're talking to the police in, I guess, in Manitoba.
Yeah.
I don't know who you call in Manitoba. And they're like, the
RCMP,
right,
probably.
He's been missing, and and they're like, oh, well, do you have a recent picture? Well, a recent picture, yeah, you can find it on the website. Well, what's the website? NaziParty.com. And he goes, spell it. And she just, well, they hung up on me. Like, she's surprised
Right.
that they hung up.
Yeah.
It's just,
That total Kevin Smith humor comes through.
Yeah. And
Which is funny because it's this whole Nazi thing, like, it like flows through the podcast that he does. Like, for whatever reason, they're always talking about Nazis. Not like, yay, Nazis, but like, they're always the villains of the stories that they tell on the podcast.
Okay.
So
Is this on Smodcast?
On
you mean?
Smodcast,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, even in his Hollywood Babylon podcast, which I highly recommend. Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Ricky, stop knocking the table. But they do a couple characters called the Germans.
Oh, okay.
And one of them's named Rudiger, the other's name is Klaus. And the whole thing is like, they're Germans, not Nazis, and they give like really bad advice to people. But it's in bad like German accents.
Right.
So
which had I have known that going in, would make sense more
There's a whole lot of
with the
history.
girls in the convenience
store.
shop and whatever. Because, like I said, that just felt like satire to me. Like, okay, what are we doing here? Yeah.
Well, like Kevin Smith is a big Canada file. Like Kevin Smith loves him some Canada. Like he was actually, to hear him tell it, he was really hoping for dual citizenship between here and Canada.
Well, parts of Canada, most of Canada is
It's
really
pretty
fucking
dope.
cool.
Like Canada's like
other than
nice.
Toronto, Canada is really fucking pretty cool.
I mean, it's like America but nice.
Well, Montreal.
Yeah. I've never been to Montreal, nor have I been.
I don't
to
speak
Toronto.
French, although I hear Montreal is loaded with strip clubs. Not that I
Frequent them anymore.
not that I frequent strip clubs, but I'm just saying if that's your thing, then go to Montreal.
Yeah.
But
So, Allie,
Montreal, whatever the fuck it is.
right? Allie and Teddy make their way up to Manitoba, and they sit down in front of the police inspector. And
Right.
he's like, basically like, there's really not much we can do.
But at this point, you're getting pictures of what Howard is doing to Wallace.
Yeah.
And Wallace is like, Howard is looking at anatomy books and like,
Well, there's like a whole like
surgeries.
there's a whole like poster of like the anatomy of a human and the anatomy of a walrus.
You get the idea that Howard is turning Wallace into
a walrus.
It's
so fucked up.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Now, after this point, they go like Allie and Teddy get to the police station, and the guy who plays the cop is Ralph Garman, who was on K-Rock Radio
K-Rock.
for years, but he's also the co-host of Hollywood Babylon. Which, honestly, dude, you should listen to Hollywood Babylon.
I'll have to listen to it. I'll have to
pretty
go back and
goddamn
listen to
funny.
it. Yeah.
Because he does like 87 voices. Like, seriously.
Okay, I'll have to go back and listen to it.
Well, just listen to the most recent, because really,
Are they still going?
Oh,
They're
yeah.
still doing it? All right,
Yeah.
I'll listen
Well,
to
I mean,
it.
it's all like current pop culture news.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, it's a pretty funny show. I thoroughly enjoy it.
Okay.
And that's when Jason Mewes comes in, or at that point, that's when Guy Lapointe comes in.
Who is Johnny Depp?
Who is Johnny Depp?
who
is under a ton of prosthetic.
This is where everything
goes left.
This is where it just lost me.
Really?
It just completely lost me. The whole Johnny Depp character, the whole Guy Lapointe character, is just completely
It's batshit.
out of left field. Makes no sense. And again, this is where it turns into complete satire.
Yeah.
Like it's just Guy Lapointe is basically he is the most stereotypical French Canadian, you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
He's just
and if you look at his nose,
absurd.
if you look at his nose, it's a dick. And Johnny Depp even had the makeup artist put a little vein on the side of his face, on his nose.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, dude, you totally have to look for that next. If you ever watch it again,
I'll watch. Well, I'll certainly watch and at least fast forward to that scene with Guy Lapointe and see. But it's just,
it's zany at this point.
This is where I lose it. This is where I completely lose it because at this point I have been able to
suspend your disbelief.
Well, I have been able to disregard the convenience store, and the girls have, or not the girls, Allie and what's his name, Teddy have been to they go to the convenience store too,
right? Because that was the last known location.
So they go to the convenience store and they get a little bit more insight in the conversation that Wallace had with the girls,
right?
And you realize the girls were far more satirical and far more like over the top Canadian than even you thought when they were with having the conversation with Wallace. It's like it's just crazy. And then when they finally do meet Johnny Depp's character, this is like I said, this is the point at which to me I had been okay. I'd been able to remove myself from the convenience store thing, and I just kind of was able to think of, okay, this is a way out there horror movie or thriller or whatever you want to call it, where Wallace is being turned into a walrus,
right?
But then Johnny Depp shows up, and it becomes complete satire.
Oh yeah,
and maybe it's because the diner scene, with Johnny Depp feels like it's an hour long. Like
but it's not. It's like a 10-minute scene.
It's not even a 10-minute scene. But he is. So they meet. Allie and Teddy meet Guy Lapointe in this. Like the best way I can describe it is it's an In-N-Out burger in Canada.
But it's called the Gimli Glider.
Whatever it is.
Well, the history of the Gimli Glider is there's an airplane that everything died in the airplane. Like, as far as mechanically and shit.
Okay.
So the pilot, maybe it was Guy Lapointe. Because Guy Lapointe was actually a name of a person.
Guy Lapointe, I believe, is a hockey player for the Montreal Canadiens.
He may have been.
If I remember correctly.
But it was like a historical moment in Canadian history where this pilot landed the flight for this airplane in Gimli, and it was called the Gimli Glider because he literally took the plane like a glider and landed it. Okay. So that's where they were. Yeah,
so they're in this diner having this conversation, and he orders poutine and like 2 or 3 burgers and all kind of shit. But then he goes into this
story about how he met
the guy who is Howard Howe,
right? But he calls him
something else. Mosier,
who was named after Scott Mosier, right. who was Kevin Smith's producer on like all of the original Kevin Smith movies.
All of this is inside jokes,
and that's,
this whole thing is an inside joke.
And that's part of the. I think that's one of the problems of this movie is that it's so many inside jokes.
Right. This. Yeah, and that maybe for me that was why I didn't get it. I didn't get a lot of it.
Right.
Like I got the and I just looked it up by the way. Guy Lapointe was a defenseman for the Montreal Canadiens. So
okay.
Because I wanted to make sure I was right.
Right.
this is why I didn't get it, because the whole thing is a bunch of inside jokes that if you aren't aware of, if you aren't a listener of Smodcast, if you aren't a listener of his other
Babylon,
podcast,
or
Babylon,
any of his podcasts, really,
you aren't going to get these jokes. You aren't going to understand what's going on, and you're going to be expecting or looking for a horror movie, and you're going to be getting
a satire,
a horror movie with a bunch of satire and inside jokes that you just don't understand.
Right.
And that was kind of where I was like, yeah, like the whole Johnny Depp character to me. Look, he is so over the top in this movie that you're just like, what?
And I think that was kind of the point.
It was.
It was just like
totally.
Like, look, let's let Johnny Depp just go fucking crazy.
Look, Kevin Smith is not this bad of a director, and Johnny Depp is not this bad of an actor.
It had to have been on purpose.
That you would look at this and go, wow, they just really fucked this up. No, this was clearly on purpose. This was meant to be totally over the top. He was who's the old cartoon character, the Canadian Mountie?
Dudley Do-Right.
Dudley Do-Right. He was totally over the top Dudley Do-Right.
Well, like
it was meant to be that way.
Yeah, and in his backstory, like he was he was part of like a distinguished detective crew, and basically he became obsessed with finding this Howard Howe guy. And basically they disbarred him, or like he became a disgraced person.
Well, because he had seen a pattern in these bodies that were being turned up where the arms were sewn to the
weird and like
the arms were stitched to the torso or something, and the teeth were removed, and it was like there was this pattern that was like over and over again was appearing in these bodies that were turning up, and Guy Lapointe figured out that there is this pattern, and he knew it was one person.
But at this point, too, they were like, you're fucked up.
Right.
So basically, like, they have this whole discussion, and then next thing you know, they're on Howard. They find out where Howard Howe is.
And I forget how they found out.
They found out because they went to the convenience store, and the convenience store... The Colleen's,
right. She had the address.
They didn't have the address, but they knew where he was going.
Okay.
Because remember, they did a flashback. It was an alternate take of the discussion, which was very Tarantino-esque, might I add.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Because it was an alternate take of, like, it was the Honey Bunny and Pumpkin scene.
Yes.
From Pulp Fiction, where it was like taken from a different angle. The delivery was a little different.
It was a little off.
Just a little off from the first time we saw it. Yeah. But which would make sense because you're hearing it from a different perspective.
Right. Well, and that was where and this is where I think you kind of get the, I don't want to say brilliance or genius, but you kind of get the, maybe that's the right word, of Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Because he shows these two scenes, and it's the same scene, it's the same set of interactions, but it is the timing's a little bit off, the dialogue's just a little bit different in places or whatever, because he understands, just like Quentin Tarantino understands, people will remember things differently.
Right.
And when you're looking at somebody's memories, when you're looking at an image of somebody's memory, you're looking at it from from their perspective.
You and I have experienced many things together.
Right. But I'll bet we have very different
recollections
of
it.
them. And
absolutely.
Right. And if you were to look at those pictures of what we have in our head of how that happened, you would see different things. And he does a really good job. And this is why I struggle with this movie, because it's like Kevin Smith is so good at what he does, but at the same time, I'm just like, is it satire? Is it a horror? What is it? Yeah. Is it a comedy? Is it dark comedy? Is it? I don't know. I don't know what I'm watching. I don't know what this is supposed to be.
Right.
I'm missing the inside jokes at this point.
I think that's the big issue.
Yeah.
So at this point, they cut back to they do that weird scene with Guy and Howard Howe, where he takes on this weird vocal affectation, almost like he's kind of retarded.
Well, because Johnny Depp's character, Guy Lapointe, runs into who we now know as Howard Howe in some remote cabin somewhere.
Yeah.
Because he's looking for some amateur junior hockey player
that has
who
gone
happens
missing.
to have gone missing, and you are told the story that it was he basically this amateur hockey player was a previous walrus.
Right.
Essentially is what you're going to find out. But yeah, there's this whole interaction between Howard Howe and Guy Lapointe where it's like you kind of got the feeling of both kind of knew who the other was,
but they didn't have enough
really do anything.
Yeah,
it was like it was
he
kind of
couldn't
weird.
do anything about it, and Howard Howe was just playing the part.
Yeah. But at this point, can we acknowledge that they're flashing to there's at least that scene where Howard Howe feeds him the fish?
Well, no, because it goes from there to the reveal that he is now a walrus.
Right.
Wallace has been completely turned into in the most fucked up walrus costume.
Well, through the whole thing, you're seeing images of Howard Howe performing surgeries on Wallace, and this has got to be weeks of time,
easily,
right? And yes, and then the reveal comes where you see Wallace as a walrus. It's just, and it's so absurd.
It's so absurd, but it's disturbing as well. Like the costume is fucked.
It is. It is really. This is a point where, look, as somebody who I was out of the inside jokes. I will say that when I watched this, it was the same feeling I had when he woke up with no leg. I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, like this could be a real person.
Yeah.
Like waking up as a fucking walrus.
Right.
Like holy balls, man.
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, and it was full on like tusks like screwed into his skull.
Which you find out are his what are the shins?
The shin bones or whatever that he had like. Yeah. Oh.
So when he was like sitting there and with finding out that he had no leg, and the guy was polishing a tusk, it was his shin bone.
Yeah. Which, I didn't put that together.
Yeah, it's a shin.
Yeah. This.
Do you guys still have it pulled up on your phone? Because I have Sprint and Sprint sucks.
I have the IMDb pulled up on my phone.
I tried.
Yeah. What are you looking for?
Who did the special effects? Because I want to say it was one of the guys.
Is that on IMDb somewhere?
Yeah. It'll be under all cast and crew.
All cast and crew. All right.
But I want to say it was the same guy who did the special effects for Red State.
Becky Ingram.
No.
And Corey McCauley.
Okay. Anybody else listed?
Nope.
Or makeup?
That's it. Becky Ingram, Corey McCauley. Makeup was, let's see, makeup department. Wendy Bell, Chris Drillard, David Greathouse, Joel Harrell. I don't recognize any of these names.
Yeah, I want to say that like whoever came up with the design for the walrus was also
costume designer Maya Lieberman.
No. It had something to do with like it was the same guy that did all the special effects for Red State, but I thought there was a Walking Dead connection there too.
There could have been. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I mean, it was done well. You got the idea. You got the idea that it was.
Well, the crazy thing
was supposed to be it was supposed to be over the top.
Yeah.
Right. You were looking at this guy who was basically he had been sewn together as a walrus
from his own flesh
and his own bone. But as you were looking at it, you still got the feeling of he's kind of wearing a walrus costume.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
But it's right.
But like the reason that they cast that Kevin had cast Justin Long was because he had expressive eyes. Because after that point, he doesn't speak.
No, he just kind of grunts.
And you find out that Howard cut his tongue out. Right. So everything had to do was between and like his eyes.
Fucking weird.
Yeah. And like there was at one point like he's like, "Whoa, walruses have to swim," and he kicks his ass into the fucking water.
He throws him in the water.
And when he goes down to the bottom, he sees all these other like carcasses,
other walruses,
who did
quote
not
unquote
learn how to
walruses
swim.
who didn't learn how to swim.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then he feeds him a fish.
Yeah, and he has to eat this
and
fish.
he has to eat the fish raw and kind of thing.
And then like by the like for whatever reason,
this is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
This whole thing at this point.
This is what Creep wished it was.
Yeah. I will readily admit this whole thing at this point is uncomfortable, and it's way more uncomfortable than Creep was. I attribute this to Kevin Smith being the director that he is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Again, I'm outside of the inside jokes, so I don't get it. But I feel at this point fucking just itchy and which
is what a good horror movie should do for you.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, that's what we talked about with Creep.
And there were
right?
no jump scares in this whole movie.
No.
None.
No, not a one.
But it was this eerie, like, ominousness that
felt
just kind of fucking
uncomfortable.
And it was this uncomfortableness and this like ominous. What the fuck is going on? Why is this weird? What's going on here? What's wrong with this dude? And you find out he's basically a fucking serial killer.
Well, this was one of the first movies in a long time that I really genuinely put myself into this character's place a couple times. Like I said, when Wallace woke up without the leg, when he was a full-blown walrus, I put myself into that character. Like, oh my God, how would that feel? Like, fuck, is that just
imagine the terror of being stuck in your skin.
Right. And I think more than anything, Kevin Smith did that so unbelievably well.
Yeah.
So well. I and again, I can't speak enough to Kevin Smith as a director. He is so good at what he does. I don't know how you can escape putting yourself into this Wallace character's position and feeling like, fuck, what if I was a walrus?
Right.
What if I fucking woke up in some guy's fucking fish tank as a walrus?
It's fucking
Jesus
disconcerting.
Christ. Holy shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was fucking weird, dude.
Yeah. So then, like, next thing you know, like, for whatever reason, Howard gets into some weird, like, half-ass walrus suit, and they have to fight for dominance.
Because Howard tells a story about how when he was on the island,
he had
kill made friends with Mr. Tusk, and then in order to survive, he had to kill Mr. Tusk to eat him.
Yeah.
Because he needed to survive and he needed food. And it was only minutes after he killed Mr. Tusk
that he was rescued.
Some boat came by and he was rescued. So he felt like Mr. Tusk never really got the chance to
defend
himself and survive. So this is your chance, Mr. Tusk. Fight me and so like he is in this goofy fucking walrus suit skin and like has to fight like Wallace's character.
And Wallace kills him.
Wallace tusks him in the chest.
Fucking death.
Which was painful to watch because I could feel the tusks smashing into my face.
Skull.
Every time he stabbed him in the chest.
But
with
it's
his
a desperation level, you know?
Yeah, right. You're at that point where you're fighting for survival.
Yeah.
And
And like you just realize the point of insanity that Howard is in. Like,
and Wallace at this point, too.
Yeah, both of them. They hit that
both of
point
them completely lost their shit.
Nutbags.
And at this point...
Gila Point and
the
Allie and Teddy bust in. They find the place. They find the little hidden like aquarium area in the house, and like they get ready to shoot Wallace, and they say no, wait, because they somehow recognize that Wallace is this walrus,
which I think it given your statement about his eyes, I think it makes sense because he was recognizable as Wallace the whole time.
Yeah.
To me, like there was no point at which I looked at the walrus's face and couldn't identify Wallace in this walrus's face.
Right.
It was obvious that this is the same person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or the same thing at this point.
And at that point, Allie recognizes what's going on, and then it goes to like fast forwards a year later.
Yeah, and this was all fucked up.
Yeah, and Kevin just addressed this recently.
Okay.
In a podcast. I can't remember what he said because I've had 4 beers already, and I don't
I think
remember
I'm
what's
4 or
going.
5 in. Yeah.
And like they find him at a petting zoo. Like they basically instead of killing him or, I don't know, trying to turn him back into a fucking human, they put him as a walrus in some fucking zoo, and like they have their like yearly visit to him.
Right. Which was weird in and of itself. It didn't
But at
make
this
any,
point,
it was
at this point, like he went from man to animal. He was no longer a human at that point.
He really was a walrus.
Yeah.
And at this point, as a viewer, unless you're in on the inside jokes, you're watching this going, I don't know what the fuck I'm watching
point at the end, that point at the end, they even talked about in the podcast. And I think, let me see which podcast it was.
You can bring it up. But at this point, I was watching it. I had no idea what I was watching at this point. I was so fucking like out of sorts and so disoriented at this point. Like, to me, nothing was making sense. Everything was just completely absurd or satire or whatever that you're just like, I don't even get it. And I don't even, it didn't even matter. And when he came out as the walrus, my first thought was, why didn't they? First of all, he's still got all the stitches in him.
Yeah.
He's not even like scarred in a walrus. He actually is still stitched
It's the same
together.
fucking costume.
It's literally the same costume that he was wearing a year ago.
Yeah.
Or like a year ago in movie timeline.
Mm-hmm.
But like as a viewer, I didn't even care because I had no idea what I was.
Right.
Like I said, what I was watching at this point. But yeah.
Yeah.
This you can't find it, can you?
No. It was shot in 15 days.
Okay. The whole movie?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And Quentin Tarantino was originally offered the role of Gila Point, but turned it down. Say he couldn't wait to watch Michael Parks let loose his internal kraken in this movie. And basically,
Michael Parks was good.
He was incredible in this movie.
He was very, very good.
So basically, at the end of the episode of the Smodcast, he basically told the audience, "Hey, at the end of this, if you think this might be an interesting movie, #walrus yes, and if you don't think so, #walrus no." Well, walrus yes won out.
Really?
I'm trying to find words.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Oof. I don't know, man.
Episode. All right. So Greg Nicotero was the first choice to create the special effects, particularly the walrus suit.
Greg Nicotero is
the
a
Walking Dead guy.
Yeah. Smith
states on Smodcast 259 that he knows how much Nicotero loved Jaws, to the point that Nicotero even constructed a real 25-foot replica of the shark in real life for fun, blah, blah, blah. So Nicotero was the guy that designed the walrus. So it was Smodcast 259 is the episode.
All right.
The name Gregory Gumtree is a reference to the original post talked about. Gregory was the original name for Mr. Tusk, and the post was found on Gumtree.com. Let's see here. Howard Howe.
Yeah, see, this whole movie is filled with inside jokes.
Yeah, and that's part of the issue with this movie, I think, that a lot of people took issue with.
Right.
Was the fact that it was so much, like, you have to be, like, steeped in Kevin Smith lore to really get a lot of the jokes. Like the ringtone, that ooh-ah, ooh-ah, more margaritas, ooh-ah, ooh-ah. That was taken from Hollywood Babylon.
Yeah, that's Wallace's ringtone.
Yeah, and that was Ralph Garman doing his impression of Pacino.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
But yeah, so I think it's episode 257, Smodcast 257. I'm sure you can find it out on YouTube because you can't get it on
on iTunes or Stitcher. Or
anything like that anymore. So yeah, you'll have to jump on it that way. But it's a pretty interesting.
I'll have to listen
episode.
to it.
Yeah.
I'll have to listen to it only because, like I said, I've seen the movie twice. Just because.
Well, shut up. Fucking Siri, you're worthless.
Why do you have Siri as an British dude?
Australian.
Australian?
Yeah, I like the Australian accent.
Oh, okay. But as a dude?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
I don't think they have an Australian woman.
I thought they did.
Maybe. I
I
don't know.
don't know. Whatever. I have Siri turned off. I don't need the government listening to me.
It's not like Alexa.
You're right. I know. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this movie. I was so. My first reaction when this ended was
like,
what
the fuck?
Fuck did I just watch?
Yeah.
Although I will say the last scene with Johnny Depp sitting on the rock was actually pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget if that came after the credits.
I can't remember.
But he's like sitting on the rocks afterwards. And I shouldn't have had the third glider or whatever it is. He's like, because he had like
slider.
3 burgers, or when they were sitting in
Gimli
the diner,
sliders.
the Gimli sliders. He had like 3 of them when he was sitting there, and he's sitting there obviously with and he's like, oh, I shouldn't have had the third one, and okay, it's funny. But as soon as that rolled, I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? What is this?
And well, I think for me, any good horror movie is one that you're like, the fuck did I just watch?
Okay.
Like, and you and I come to horror movies from a completely different place.
Well, all right. If you were to say what your favorite horror movie of all time is, or if you were to like, at least just give me an idea. Like, pick a movie that you would put in your top 5, even if it's not your favorite of all time. One of my
top 5 horror movies of all time would be High Tension, which was a French film.
Yes. Okay.
Which was a fucked up ass French film.
Fucked up. Yeah, completely fucked up. A lot of blood.
Oh.
Whoa. Lots of blood.
Yeah, dude gets his head stuck in the thing of the.
And she smashes it off
with
the
a
dresser or piano or whatever the fuck it was. Yeah. Okay. That was not bad. There was plot holes in that though. Like,
dude, you could fall through the plot holes, but I don't care.
Good
It was like,
Lord,
there was enough blood to fill the plot holes. I didn't care.
For me, okay, and for me, I would just say along those same lines, guaranteed top 5 is going to be Halloween.
Yeah.
Right. The Strangers is another one.
Yep.
So I'm very much more of the creeped out, like I'm looking out my window at night type of thing. This wasn't my type of horror movie.
Sure.
But it's okay. It's good. I don't even know if I can say it's good. I don't know.
It was interesting.
This is one I don't know what I don't know what the fuck
I'm going to say
it.
fuck yeah, because
of course you are, because it's Kevin Smith.
It's a Kevin Smith movie.
You blow Kevin Smith if you could.
Well, especially if he's punching me in the head, I'd blow him to stop me. So, but yeah, no, I truly enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fucked up enough, and like I had to wait till it came out on video because this movie came out on Grayson's literal day of birth.
Oh, really?
So I will never forget when this movie came out.
Okay.
Because it was on Grayson's birthday. And then Bobby's birthday was the day that Bert Kreischer's first Showtime special came out.
Oh.
Yeah.
When he did the machine.
Yeah. So I had to watch that on fucking... I had to find a way to watch that on my iPad in the hospital. So...
I mean, I hate to say it, but I have to. This is the first one that I have to say fuck this movie on.
Really?
I really do. Only because, like, unless you're... The only good reason to watch this movie is if you're a Kevin Smith fan.
Sure.
You have to be a Kevin Smith fan.
Yeah.
And to watch this movie. Because then you'll get all the inside jokes. All the satire will make sense.
Sure.
Otherwise, you'll be watching this movie and go, I don't fucking get it.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, and this is kind of why I'm on the fence.
Yeah.
Because there were some places, like when he woke up with the no leg, when he woke up as a walrus, there were some places where I really felt itchy and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like you said, that's what a horror movie is supposed to be. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. But like the Johnny Depp diatribe in the Slider place, and it just was like, this is just
It's
absurd.
bizarre.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. So I don't know. Maybe I'm on the fence between. Can I be that? Can I be on the fence?
Sure. You can say fuck maybe.
I'm gonna say fucking maybe. Yeah, because it's like it does make me uncomfortable, but at the same time, like if you're not a super Kevin Smith
Now, what if I told you
fanboy,
that this is part of a trilogy?
I don't know that I care.
So there is a second movie that came out.
Yeah.
It's called Yoga Hosers.
Oh yeah. Yoga Hosers is on.
It's on Netflix
It's on Netflix as well, and I actually have that in my list.
That is the kind of sideways follow-up to this movie.
Well,
and
that's
it's the
supposed
Colleens.
to be pure.
It's
pure black comedy, dark comedy kind of.
It is a teenage rubber mask movie.
Yeah, I heard him talk about that on Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, it was a
where he said
PG-13 movie.
It's going to be totally. It's totally
goofy.
tongue-in-cheek, goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they have bratwursts that are Nazis, called the Bratzies.
God.
And they're like genetic experiments.
He's such an odd dude, man.
He is.
He's so
totally
fucking weird.
And then the third movie it's scripted, has yet to be produced or made, but it's called Moose Jaws, and it's Jaws with a moose.
Listen, for what it's worth, Cloverfield was a trilogy too.
True.
And we see where that ended up.
I never saw the third one. Actually, I barely
I watched 20
the second
minutes.
one.
I watched 20 minutes of the third one.
The
and
Cloverfield Paradox?
fucking blue chunks.
Really?
It's horrible. The second one with John Goodman is really good.
I haven't finished watching it yet.
Really, really good.
Right on.
Yeah. The third one, Cloverfield Paradox, I watched 20 minutes.
That was it.
That's it. It doesn't matter how much better it gets from there. Even if you write in and you say, "Oh, you got to keep watching. It gets totally better." Doesn't matter. Cuz at this point I'm so far I got to rewatch the first 20 minutes and I'll get bored again.
That's hilarious. Cuz that was kind of released like this last Eminem album. It was like, oh, guess what? New Cloverfield movie, Netflix only.
Yeah. Well, there was a reason it's Netflix only,
Yeah, well,
apparently.
Yeah. Obviously.
So that's where I'm at with this movie. I don't like I said, I got to be completely on the fence, and if you had to push me one way or the other, unless you're a total Kevin Smith fanboy, I got to say fuck this movie. And I'm not a Kevin Smith fanboy. I like his stuff, but I'm not a fanboy.
Yeah. I would recommend listening to the podcast before watching the movie.
That may help.
Because that basically you hear the wheels turning. Because
it'll set up the inside jokes for sure, if nothing else.
Well, if you think about it, the last movie he did prior to this was Red State. And after Red State, he was like, I'm not doing movies anymore. Fuck the system.
So good. Red State's so good.
Yeah. And at this point, he's like, look, I'm doing movies because fuck it. It's fucked up and I want to see it.
Yeah.
This movie was fucked up.
This is really fucked up.
Yeah.
Really, really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have a suggestion?
I do. We're going to talk about weird and fucked up. So we're going to watch The Voices. With Ryan Reynolds.
The Ryan Reynolds film, yes.
Yes. Which I don't know if it's a Netflix original or not. I don't think it is. I think it's been out there for a while, but
it's up there.
I will just say I have seen this before.
Sure.
I'm going to watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
And it is probably my favorite Ryan Reynolds role
over Deadpool
of all time.
Over Deadpool.
That's
big talking, sir.
I'm going to spoil a little bit here of our next episode. I love this movie.
Really?
Love this movie. Yes.
Because I'm a Ryan Reynolds fan going back to The Day.
Okay.
Like Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place.
Yeah.
But Van Wilder, which oddly enough, based on Bert Kreischer.
Agreed.
That was literally loosely based on Bert Kreischer.
Right. Look, Ryan Reynolds has made some shit. This has nothing to do with Ryan Reynolds.
No.
I'm just saying.
Good movie. You liked it.
It's my favorite Ryan Reynolds role, and I love this movie.
Did you see the one where he was buried? Buried alive?
No, I don't think
That
I
was a
have.
fucked up
Is that a
movie.
good movie?
Yeah, it's not on Netflix. Basically, like, he's a contractor over in Kuwait or whatever,
Okay.
and he gets captured by ISIS or
Whatever.
ISIL or
Whatever terror
terrorist.
organization
And he gets
is in
buried
that movie.
alive with a cell phone.
Oh, you know what? That was on Netflix for a while.
Yeah,
but,
it's
and it
a-
was on my list, but then it got bumped off
Dude,
because
it's
it's not there.
fucked. It's good, but it's
I'll
fucked up.
check
Because
that
basically,
out.
it's him talking to one person over the phone.
Oh,
Yeah, and
all right,
it's
I'll watch it.
crazy.
I'll find it.
I
I'll
don't-
watch
yeah,
it.
it's-
I'll find it somewhere. It
it's
doesn't
up
matter.
somewhere.
If I need to find it on some fucking, I'll find it somewhere.
yeah, but that's not Netflix and chill. So fuck
All right,
it.
so yeah, so
But
the
all right,
voices,
so the voices
so
next.
the voices with Ryan Reynolds, and yeah,
All right,
that's it.
Cool. All right. Well, for damn, this is a long one this time.
Ooh, was it really?
Hour 20.
Holy shit!
Yeah. We talked as long as almost as long as the movie
Almost
is.
as long as the movie.
We did a Kevin Smith review on a Kevin Smith movie.
I told you it was gonna be long.
I know, dude. All right, so for Netflix and chill this week, I am Reuben.
I'm Tom.
It's Brittany, bitch.
Leave Brittany alone.
I still love that. That's like the best outro ever.
It's Brittany, bitch.
It's Britney, bitch.